Most people think the hardest part of money is getting rich. It isn't. Getting rich is a strategy problem. It's math, it's patience, it's learning, it's uncomfortable, but it's straightforward. The truly difficult part, the part that breaks people, is not becoming rich. It's avoiding poverty. And I don't mean poverty as a number, I mean poverty as a force that drags your life downward no matter how hard you pull upward, a force that turns your small wins into temporary relief and your small mistakes into disasters, a force that makes your best month disappear under one bad week. If you've ever felt like you work and work and work and you're still stuck, you're not crazy, you're not lazy, you're not bad with money in the way people love to shame you. You're trapped in a system that has physics.
And the reason most financial advice fails the working class is because it treats poverty like a personality flaw instead of a gravitational field. Let me explain the idea in a way you can feel in your bones. When a rocket tries to leave Earth, it doesn't need to be a little fast. It needs to hit a very specific speed. Engineers call it escape velocity. If it reaches that speed, it breaks free and enters orbit. Everything changes. Friction drops, gravity weakens, movement becomes easier. But if the rocket reaches 95% of the needed speed, do you know what happens? It doesn't get 95% of the way to space. It falls back hard, and that is exactly what happens to millions of people. You work overtime, you cut expenses, you save a bit, you climb, you feel momentum, you start believing you might finally break through, then your car needs repairs, or your rent jumps, or you get sick, or your kid needs something, or your hours get cut, or a family emergency hits, gravity grabs you. And because you weren't past escape velocity, you don't slide back a little. You drop all the way down, sometimes lower than before because now you're tired, now you're discouraged, now your confidence is damaged, now you're behind on bills, now you're paying penalties. This is why try harder is often useless advice in the poverty zone. Linear effort produces almost no progress because the system pulls you back every time you pause. To get out, you don't need a motivational speech. You need an engine. You need to understand the 5 chains that hold you down and then build the force required to snap them. Because poverty is not a single problem, it's a machine made of loops. And each loop feeds the next. In this video, we're going to reverse engineer that machine. We're going to identify 5 specific loops that keep people trapped. The scarcity tax that steals your mental bandwidth. The dopamine trap that drains your money in exchange for temporary relief. The linear income trap that caps your earning power no matter how hard you grind. The social gravity that pulls you back into the identity of your environment, and the compound void, the quiet math that makes the poor pay interest while the rich collect it. And then I'm going to show you the escape sequence, a 3-stage plan that builds enough force to break orbit, because once you break orbit, life stops feeling like a constant emergency. You stop living inside panic. You stop reacting. You start choosing. But first, we have to survive the launch. Let's start with the first loop, the scarcity tax. Most people think poor people have money problems. That's not the deepest problem. The deepest problem is bandwidth. When your life is tight, your brain is busy. Not busy with ideas, busy with survival, busy with managing urgent problems. Rent, food, gas, medicine, late bills, overdraft risk, the call from the school, the warning notice, the final reminder. When your mind is full of threats, it cannot plan deeply. It can only react, and that isn't a moral weakness. It's biology. Chronic financial stress puts your nervous system into a constant fight-or-flight mode, and when you live in fight-or-flight, your brain becomes a short-term machine. You stop thinking in years and start thinking in hours. You stop planning and start patching holes. This is the scarcity tax, the mental cost of being broke. And here's what makes it vicious. Your decisions get worse under stress, which creates more stress, which makes your decisions worse again. That's the loop. This is why people in scarcity often do things that outsiders judge as stupid. They take the high-interest loan because the electric is getting shut off tomorrow. They buy the cheapest food because they need calories tonight. They skip preventative health care because they can't afford the appointment, then pay 10 times more later when it becomes an emergency. They're not dumb. They're overloaded. Now add the second part of the scarcity tax. Poverty is expensive. When you are poor, the world charges you a penalty, not because the world hates you, because the system is built on efficiency and you can't afford efficiency. If you can't buy in bulk, you pay more per unit. If you can't afford quality, you buy cheap replacements repeatedly. If you have bad credit, you pay higher interest. If you miss a deadline, you pay a late fee. If your account dips, you pay an overdraft fee. If you're risky, everything costs more. Here's a simple example because this one lands hard. Imagine 2 people need work boots. Person A has enough cash to buy 1 solid pair that lasts 10 years. Person B doesn't. Person B buys the cheapest pair and it falls apart in a year. After 10 years, person A paid once, person B paid 10 times, person B spent more money and suffered worse the whole time. Wet feet, sore back, constant replacement. That is poverty math. The system rewards the people who already have capital and punishes the people who don't. So how do you break the first loop? Not with investing tips, not with side hustles, not with motivational quotes. You build a buffer. Your first goal is not to become wealthy. Your first goal is to buy time and peace. You need a small emergency reserve, $500, $1,000, whatever you can achieve, because that buffer does one magical thing. It prevents small problems from turning into big disasters. If you have a buffer, a car repair is inconvenient, not catastrophic. A sudden expense is annoying, not life-threatening. A missed shift is frustrating, not eviction level. And the most important part, a buffer gives you your brain back. When you know you can absorb a hit, your nervous system calms down, your thinking improves, you sleep better, you plan better, you stop living with a gun to your head. That is why the buffer is not money, it's bandwidth. Skipping this step is like trying to build a house during a hurricane while your roof is missing. You can't build stability while emergencies are constantly knocking you down. So the first escape step is stop the bleeding. Build the buffer. Now we enter the second loop, the dopamine trap. This is the loop that people love to mock without understanding. They say, if you're broke, why do you have a new phone? Why do you buy expensive shoes? Why are you eating out? Why do you subscribe to things? Why do you buy anything that isn't survival? That judgment is shallow because it ignores the psychological reality of poverty. If your life is painful, your brain hunts for relief. And if your life is stressful, your brain hunts for a win. When you've spent all week feeling powerless, buying something, anything, gives you a temporary feeling of control, a temporary feeling of identity, a temporary feeling of being seen. That's dopamine. And dopamine is not about logic. It's about relief. For many people, spending isn't shopping. It's self-medication. It's a fast way to feel better when you're emotionally exhausted. But here's the trap. The relief lasts minutes. The cost lasts months. A new gadget might soothe you for a day. A credit card payment might haunt you for years. So the real problem isn't that poor people spend money on nice things. The real problem is that consumption becomes the only available source of psychological reward. The rich can buy dopamine too, but they also have other rewards: status, freedom, options, time, security. The poor often only have the small moment of pleasure, and the system knows it. Everything is designed to sell you a better life in a box: upgrade, reward yourself, you deserve it, treat yourself. And if you live in pain, that language becomes irresistible. So how do you break the dopamine trap? You detox. You go into a temporary period of radical simplification, not forever, not as punishment, as training. For a set period, say 90 days, 180 days, you cut the non-essentials and you force your reward system to rewire. You cancel the subscriptions. You stop impulse buying. You stop eating out. You reduce the small leaks that drain you. You commit to boring. And yes, it will feel dull at first. That's the point, because you're breaking the association between spending and relief. Then something surprising happens. You start getting dopamine from control, from seeing your buffer grow, from watching debt shrink, from making progress. That dopamine is different. It's clean. It doesn't create a hangover. It doesn't create a new bill. But you can't feel it until you stop feeding the old addiction. This is why people who escape poverty often go through a monk mode phase. Not because they love suffering, because they're rewiring their brain. They're training themselves to find reward in progress instead of purchase. Now we enter the third loop, the linear income trap. This one is the silent killer because it hides behind praise. People say, work hard, get another job, pick up overtime, side hustle, grind. And sometimes that helps in the short term, but it has a fatal mathematical flaw. Time is finite. You can only sell so many hours. Even if you work 80 hours a week, you still have to sleep, you still have to eat, you still have to live. So if your income is tied directly to hours, your income is capped. And while your income is capped, your expenses are not. Now add inflation. Inflation is a tax on people who sell time. Prices rise quickly, wages rise slowly. Your grocery bill increases now, your raise comes later, if it comes at all. So you end up running up a down escalator, you work harder and still feel poorer. This is why so many working class people are exhausted and hopeless. They are doing the right thing, and it's still not working because the game is structured to cap their upside. How do you break the linear income trap? You stop selling time and start selling value. That sounds like a slogan until you understand what it means. Value scales. Time does not. If you sell 1 hour, you can only sell it once. If you create something valuable, skill, service, product, system, you can sell it multiple times, you can raise prices, you can gain leverage, you can earn without being physically present every minute. Now, most people here create value and imagine starting a company or becoming famous. That's not required. The most practical way out is building a skill stack, not becoming the best in the world at one thing, becoming unusually useful by combining 2 or 3 skills that rarely show up together. You don't need to be elite, you need to be rare. A person who is good at sales and knows construction becomes a contractor who can close deals. A person who knows healthcare and can explain things clearly becomes a patient advocate or medical admin specialist. A person who knows spreadsheets and can speak confidently becomes an operations coordinator. A person who knows marketing and can write clearly becomes a copywriter. A person who can design and manage projects becomes a freelancer who can charge more. Most people choose one lane and compete with thousands. Skill stacking makes you a category of one, and the internet changed everything. You can learn skills cheaply now: sales, writing, design, analytics, coding basics, project management, negotiation, public speaking. You don't need permission. Now here's the key move. Use your monk mode period to build the second skill. Because if you're still spending every night scrolling and consuming, you're not building escape velocity. You're burning fuel. This isn't about being busy. This is about building leverage. Now the fourth loop, social gravity. This is the loop that people hate to talk about because it feels cruel, but it's real. Your environment shapes your future. Not because you're weak, because humans are social creatures. We copy the tribe. We mirror language, habits, expectations, and standards. If everyone around you believes life is hopeless, you start believing it too. If everyone around you spends impulsively, you normalize it. If everyone around you mocks ambition, your ambition starts shrinking. There's a reason people say you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's not motivational fluff, it's behavioral reality, and when you try to change, your environment often resists, not always with evil, often with fear. When you start saving, someone says, "Why are you acting better than us?" When you start learning, someone says, "Relax, you're doing too much." When you stop spending, someone says, "Life is short, enjoy it." This is social gravity. It's like a bucket full of crabs. The moment one tries to climb out, the others pull it down, not because they hate it, but because its escape forces them to confront their own decision to stay. So how do you break social gravity? You protect your mind. You reduce time with people who drain you and increase time with people who build you, even if those people are not physically in your neighborhood. This is where the internet becomes your lifeline. If you can't access high achievers in person, you can access their ideas. Books, interviews, lectures, biographies, long-form discussions. Your brain has mirror systems. When you immerse yourself in a new mental environment, you begin copying it. You begin adopting different standards. You build a new neighborhood inside your head. And here's the twist. You don't need rich friends. You need stronger inputs. If you listen to complaint stories all day, you become complaint-shaped. If you listen to builders all day, you become builder-shaped. This is not magic, it's training. Now the fifth loop, the compound void. This is the most brutal because it's invisible and mathematical. The poor pay compound interest. The rich earn compound interest. That's the line. If you're stuck, you're likely paying credit card interest at 18-30%, car loan interest, buy now, pay later interest, fees and penalties disguised as convenience, financing costs that multiply the price of everything. Even if you spend nothing today, interest may still be accumulating against you. That means the math is pulling you backward while you're trying to move forward. Meanwhile, people with assets earn market compounding, dividends, rental income, business cash flow, appreciation, reinvestment. They wake up richer even when they do nothing that day. That's not because they're smarter. It's because they crossed the line from paying interest to earning it. So the question becomes, how do you cross the line? You follow the 3-stage escape sequence. Stage 1, survival, stop the bleeding. You do 3 things: build the buffer, even 500, 1,000, cut the leaks, subscriptions, impulse spending, lifestyle inflation, go wide, kill high interest debt as fast as possible because it's a vampire. Stage 1 is not glamorous. It's discipline, it's friction, it's boring, but it creates stability. And stability is the platform for stage 2. Stage 2, accumulation, build assets. This is where you start earning compound interest instead of paying it. And you don't need to start big. You start consistent. You take a small daily or weekly amount, $10 a day, $50 a week, whatever is realistic, and you buy productive assets. For most people, the simplest version is a low-cost index fund strategy. Not because it's exciting, but because it's reliable over long time horizons and doesn't require you to be a genius. The key is consistency. Your first investments will feel small. They will feel pointless. You will think, this can't matter. But compounding doesn't impress you early. It humiliates you early. Then it amazes you later. Stage 3, freedom, escape velocity. This is when your asset base and income skills produce enough stability that you are no longer one emergency away from collapse. You have options. You can say no to bad jobs. You can negotiate. You can move. You can breathe. You don't have to be rich. You just have to be out of the gravity well. That is escape velocity. Now let's summarize the 5 chains we just dismantled. The scarcity tax. Poverty steals your mental bandwidth and charges you premiums for being broke. The dopamine trap. Spending becomes emotional pain relief, creating permanent debt for temporary pleasure. The linear income trap. Selling time caps your income while inflation keeps rising. Social gravity. The tribe pulls you back into old identity and habits. The compound void. The poor pay interest while the rich earn it. If you break even 2 of these loops, your life changes dramatically. If you break all 5, you don't just earn more, you become a different kind of person, calmer, more strategic, more patient, more powerful. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. The goal isn't to become rich. The goal is to become untrappable, to become the kind of person who can't be knocked down to 0 by one bad week, to become the kind of person who can take a hit and still stay in orbit. And that is possible, not for everyone overnight, but for anyone who treats poverty like physics instead of shame. So if you feel stuck, don't insult yourself. Don't call yourself lazy. Don't tell yourself you're broken. Start asking better questions. Where am I leaking money? Where am I leaking energy? Which loop is holding me the strongest? What single action would buy me the most stability in the next 30 days? What skill could I start stacking in the next 90 days? Who or what is shaping my mindset daily? Then choose one move. Build the buffer. Cut one addiction expense. Learn one skill. Pay off one high-interest balance. Replace 1 hour of doom scrolling with 1 hour of learning. That's how the countdown starts. Because the escape isn't a single leap. It's fuel, it's pressure, it's accumulation. And then one day, quietly, you realize you didn't fall back this time. The car repair didn't destroy you. The rent increase didn't break you. The emergency didn't reset you to 0. You stayed in orbit. And once you're in orbit, the game changes, the friction decreases, the panic fades, the future becomes visible again. That's not motivation, that's mechanics. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. Poverty is a system. Systems can be reverse engineered. Loops can be broken, but you don't break them with hope. You break them with design. You break them by building escape velocity. Thanks for listening.